more stories. How did you do your business and grow it? What problems and how did you overcome it, et cetera? So I'll get into a couple of those things, particularly as they pertain to patents. SCORE had a kind of a very strange origination, and I'll tell you about that. The Small Business Administration was founded in the mid-50s as a cabinet post for the federal government. And they soon realized that they didn't have the resources to meet the needs of their clients. And those two primary things that they were looking for was, how do I start a business? How do I grow a business? Well, the SBA was busy processing loans and things like that, gathering data, and this just primary need, all these people coming back from World War II, from the Korean War, GI Bill. It was an exciting time, and no one was there to help them. And so miraculously, somebody came up with an idea, and they said, well, why don't we just talk to business people that have been in business for 30, 40 years, and ask if they'll do this, if they'll help people grow their business, start their business, and do it for free. And it worked. I mean, you know, it sounds kind of goofy. Who would do that? But it worked, and that's what SCORE is. It's people that have been in business for many, many years, have a lot of experience, and they're willing to give back their time to help people grow and start their businesses. Today we have over about, in SCORE, it's a national organization, about 350 chapters, 13,000 volunteers like myself. The core benefit of SCORE are free one-on-one counseling and workshops. So the one-on-one counseling is with a SCORE counselor like myself, and then we'll get into the workshops. That's the part of the core to it. I think the value of SCORE, as opposed to other organizations and consultants and things, we come from, been there, done that. You know, everybody in SCORE, that's where we're coming from. We've been on the street, we know how tough it is, we know how to get things accomplished. So we didn't just read a book or get a franchise. So everybody that is a counselor at SCORE has been there and done that. And that's what the real value, I think, of working with a SCORE counselor is. SCORE, our office is downtown in the SBA office, if you're familiar with the customs building down there, the old customs house. That's where we're housed, 19th in California. And the types of counseling that we offer are office counseling. We have nice offices with the SBA down there, and we have them every weekday. So you can call in to SCORE if you want to arrange a meeting with a counselor and come downtown for that. Pretty convenient to the trains, and it's, you know, in downtown a little complicated, but it's very convenient for most people. We also do field counseling. If you're unable to come down there for some reason that it's just not working out, or you're working full time, you got to meet after hours, then you can call and say, you know, could we meet? I need a counselor that I can meet, but I can't come downtown. And then the other type of counseling is telephone. So if you say, you know, I got a few questions, I don't want to come downtown, I just, you know, want to find somebody that I can call every once in a while and shoot the breeze with. So we have telephone counseling. The workshops, when you have a one-on-one counseling session, they're usually for an hour. Field counseling, when I do them, they're usually, you know, 2 hours or something. You just have more time and you can really get a hold of things. But down when you have in the office, you have a certain amount of time to spend with people, and that's it. So we do have workshops, and that's where you really get a lot of value. And they're oriented, our primary orientation is towards business plans, helping people start their business plan. And the key workshop there is just called Simple Steps, and it's held about 6 times a year, about every other month. And it goes on for 4 consecutive Thursday mornings. So the first 2 hours are PowerPoints with the moderator explaining things and answering questions and going through the key elements of the business plan. And then the last 2 hours are homework. That's what I really like about this class. You just don't go to a seminar and then you leave, and maybe you remember some of it, maybe you don't. You sit there and you answer all these questions that you've just been discussing. And you start formulating your plans for your business right there while it's fresh in your mind, and you can zap it down. Then the next week you come back, cover a few more topics. So by the time you're through with the four weeks, you have all the elements of your business plan already kind of downloaded in a sense. And really that's the way business plans are. You just answer questions. You ask yourself a question. How am I going to do this? And you write the answer. It's not that difficult, but everybody has trouble wanting to say, what are the questions I should be asking? So when you do your homework, there's all the questions you've got to answer in order to give yourself a good business plan that's going to be workable. Each participant is also assigned a mentor. So during this 4-week period and even after that, if you don't quite understand something that went on in the class, you want to discuss it a little bit, you'll have your own mentor to do that with. Some of the subjects that they talk about are, just the need for the business. What's so unique and compelling about your business that people are going to want to pay for your particular product or service? Researching the competition. There's several ways to do that. You got to know what's happening out there. Do you really have anything unique, or are other people doing this? What's the best entity? Is it LLC? Is it a subchapter S? I mean, what are the pros and cons of each of these? Registration for your business and the documents that are required for that. Insurance. A lot of people don't think about insurance. I don't need it. Well, in this litigious society that we live in, I have been sued. Everybody's going to get sued because that's the way we are. And I got a call from an attorney in Oregon, and she said, one of your boxes fell off a shelf in Home Depot and injured my client. Right, you all say, you got to be kidding me. I'm not kidding you. What did I have to do with one of my boxes in Home Depot in Oregon falling off and hitting someone? But you get these inquiries trying to get a settlement out of you. They know they're ridiculous and they'll never go to court, but they're hoping you'll capitulate and they can get something out of you. But so you need insurance, and there's liability insurance, there's insurance for your inventory, there's all kinds of insurance, so you should know a little bit about what those issues are. Organizational essentials, most organizations have essential procedures and elements that they work from, and knowing that you have all those in place in your business is important. Of course, my interest is primarily marketing, so there's quite a bit on marketing in this program. Getting a realistic marketing plan, very specific, very prioritized as what the things you're going to do and when you're going to do them and how much each one of them is going to cost. I've looked at so many business plans, and you look at it, it has marketing expense, $500, $500, $500. Isn't that remarkable? You're spending $500 every month, just like that. What are you going to spend it on? Well, on marketing stuff. You don't have a plan. Pricing, a lot of, when you talk about marketing, that also includes pricing, because that's essential when you're doing your research and everything. Is your product or service going to be in line with the pricing that is going to be successful? So, competitive advantage. Surprised at how many people that are going out to market that don't know what their competitive advantage is. They're not promoting it. They don't even realize it exists. Defining your specific market, the demographics of that market, what your ideal client is like, where they live, what their interests are, so that you can devise a marketing plan that will reach them without broadcasting to the whole world. You have to have your particular market demographics defined. Strengths and weaknesses, something a lot of people don't think about. Generally, you may have heard that word SWOT analysis. Is where you really kind of level with yourself. What am I good at? What am I bad at? What do I need to improve on? And of course, financing. What's available in the financing market? And we stay at SCORE, we stay pretty much on top of that as far as the various resources for people to get financing. And then probably one of the hardest parts of your business plan, what everybody has troubles with, financial projections. Because most of us, it just hasn't been part of our life. And it's daunting. People don't know how to do it. They're confused. So they just need some guidance on this. How do we do realistic financial projections for 3 years? And you don't want to fool anybody, because one of the people that is really looking at those financial projections, well, if you get a banker for a loan, but you're looking at it, you want to say, if I go forward and spend all this time and effort and everything to get this business going, is it going to make money? So you don't want to fool yourself. So a good part of that business plan is just, well, maybe I've either got to change what I'm doing or wait another year or something. So the financial projections that's the end game. That's what you're aiming at. If you don't make money, let's not do this. All areas, I think, of the business plan are pretty well covered in that Simple Steps course, 4 weeks. But we do have another one-day workshop. So it's full over 8 hours with one of our CPAs, and it goes through all of these things a little bit faster than it does on the Simple Steps. But if you say, I just don't want to come down, every Thursday, I just want to get it over with. Well, it's fantastic. Runs a little bit faster, this. You don't kind of have the homework sessions that the other one does, but it covers everything. Primarily, it covers the financial forecasting. The individual that teaches this is a CPA. He has created his own forecasting model for his score. Anybody that attends his workshop, he gives it to you free, and that's what he uses in his workshop to show you how to fill in the blanks for your financials. And if you don't quite get it or you have questions, he's available to meet with you out. He lives in Lakewood. He'll go to a coffee shop, but he'll make sure that you have very professionally done financial statements to present to your lenders. We've got some other additional workshops. I just call them advanced workshops. One is QuickBooks, where you come in for the QuickBooks course. Most of us have not had experience in bookkeeping, and it's kind of daunting to us, and we're not quite sure what to do. This puts you in the driver's seat. You will have your own computer. It's not like you're just sitting listening to somebody like you are now. You will be on the screen with the instructor, really learning how to run QuickBooks, which seems to be the most popular software package for accounting. I think it's pretty robust for $200. There's some things like the inventory system that's horrible, but generally I think for $200 it's a pretty good deal. And you really need to start understanding financial statements, and that's the next advanced class we have, is financial statement analysis. If you're not looking at your financial statements, if you don't understand them, you're not going to see those red flags when they're starting to wave. They're going to be right in front of you, but you don't know how to read your financial statements. You don't know where to start. You don't know what having percentages. I look at dozens of financial statements. They don't have comparative. They're not comparing to last year, so you can kind of get something's wrong here. Our profits are down. If you don't have comparisons, you don't know quite where you stand. And percentages. Everything's by percentages. Percentages of gross sales, so that you can also compare that. You look to see if your percentages are up or down. So it's a great class to make sure that when you print your statement, you just don't file it. You look at it, and you look for primarily red flags. Where are we falling down here? Are our expenses up? Or our cost of goods sold up? Our profits are down? What's wrong? I got to figure this out and make some changes to get us back on track. Another one that's very popular is selling for success. No one's born a salesman. I certainly wasn't. I listened to enough tapes from really good sales. Who's the guy from Tupelo, Mississippi? He's passed away, but he made a lot of these tapes. And just put them in the car when I'm driving to work, and learn how to sell. But people so we got a class for it. Another one, legal issues, just things that come up with when you hire people, what your obligations are to them, if you're using 1099 people, what control means and what your tax situation is and that. So we're trying to create good workshops that are very usable by the small business community. But even better than that, we've got webinars, constant webinars. So when you go to our site, you will see webinars coming up for all these in-between subjects. And so you just say, hey, I got an hour, I'll sit on it or listen into that webinar. Some of them are produced right here in Denver, and some of them are produced by our national office in Washington, D.C. So it's a good idea to just peruse the website. I mean, you don't have to be a member. There's no dues or anything to score. You can go to the website and say, yeah, I want to kind of get this stuff put into my head, so I start thinking about it, and it's free. So they can all be accessed at the SCORE website, which is denver.score.org, and there's some brochures back there on the little table that you can pick up that also has that. So there's one other thing. I don't know that listening to people here that it applies yet, but about 10 years ago, I started a program at SCORE called the Business Checkup, and it's kind of analogous to going to a doctor and getting a checkup. Not because you're sick or anything, but that's just the thing to do. Look at my ears. Tell me, listen to my blood pressure. Tell me if I've got a problem here, so I can get it fixed. And that's what this business checkup is. And it goes through an ongoing business. The requirement is that you have to have been in business for 2 years, so that you do have some financial statements, you have some traction, something for the team to work with. And the team comes in and works with you, does a review of your business. Now, when I first started this, I set it up in systems, because I felt that all businesses are basically the same. And if you look, there's about 12 or 13 systems to every business. And there's an accounting system, there's a planning system, there's a marketing system. Okay, and so all those have to be working. And then you got a well-oiled, running, good business. So it's oriented around selecting those systems that you need help with. And generally, marketing's one of them. Cash flow is another one, things like that. So they will work with you to review what you're doing and make suggestions to improve your bottom line, improve your employee hiring, whatever the problems, the issues are. You will get a prioritized list of suggestions from these people to help you run your business better. So, any questions on SCORE? It's kind of cut and dried. It's available. It's there all the time. So if you don't need it now, you need it at some other time, it's going to be there. Yes, sir.
You have anybody down in Colorado Springs?
We have an office in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, it's part of by U.S. Bank.
Yeah, it's we have Colorado Springs.
SBA down at University
We're a nonprofit, so like most nonprofits, you don't have a whole lot of money to spend on that. We don't have any money to spend on advertising.
Like inside the SBA, they make it seem like I'm so impressed by your lecture because they leave you with the impression at the what I'm talking about, the one at the mall down there, the SBA.
Okay.
SBDC. They make it seem like you either go through the 4-week class, which no entrepreneur has time for, or you don't get any help. And now you're putting out all this great information.
Yeah, SBDC, some people say we're in competition with them, but we're not really. They have their program. They teach a certain scripted, as when I said, I think the value scores, everybody's been there, done that. Most of their instructors and everything are salaried, and they are told, here's what you teach, and this is the way you teach it. And it's cut
there's no.
it's black and
business-
white and,
And there's no
uh,
business experience there.
yeah.
It was, I don't wanna say it was a waste of time, but they're not, it's clear that they have no entrepreneurial, that they're working a day.
Well,
job.
they get a lot more funding than we do, but, because they pay salaries. We have one, part-time secretary is all we have, and, so it's a lean, mean organization, SCORE. We only get like $5 million a year for 350 offices and 13,000 volunteers, so it's a great value for the United States taxpayers to have something like this to help people get started in their business, and it's probably like the best deal in America, actually. Okay. I'm going to spend a couple, a little time here just talking about what I call inventing your business. Because we're talking, you're inventors, you're entrepreneurs. So coming to the meetings here and being involved with patents and so on, you're pretty knowledgeable, you're getting a lot of that, you're getting great advice from advisors in the industry and everything. And so I'm kind of coming from a different perspective and saying, there's more to inventing than inventing products for patents. And so I think most of you probably have an idea that you have worked on or are working on now that you'd like to commercialize. And it may be patentable, and maybe not. If you decide to patent a product, you will need to consider whether you would like to license your intellectual property to an individual or to a company, or go into business for yourself. I mean, you come to this Y in the road. You say, do I want to go the licensing route, or do I want to go into production and set up a factory and start making this product? Go to the marketplace. If you decide not to pursue a patent, then you may still go into business selling the product. I mean, you say, well, it's just not that good. Now that I've researched it, okay, but that doesn't mean that you got to throw in the towel. Perhaps you can't find a company that is interested in licensing your idea, or the deal isn't what you think it should be. So you may just decide to take it to the market yourself. So this is kind of my experience of doing exactly that, going to the market myself, and competing. Not saying I have a unique patent that everybody's going to run to buy from me because I have a patent on this and no one else does. Well, I think most of you know that only probably 5% or less patents are commercialized. So don't get your hopes up. But I say for making a lot of money off a patent, get your hopes up for saying, I can still be an inventor. I can invent ways to compete, to be successful, to use products that aren't patented. There's a whole other world out there. I just don't have to use that patent that's hanging on the wall. To explore this concept, I'd like to use examples from businesses I have owned and created. And what I call these things are in-house inventions. So things that you invent to grow your business in-house. So a little bit, you probably say, well, what do I know? Where'd you come from? After graduating from college, I joined the Marines. That doesn't mean I'm done. I spent 5 years as a helicopter pilot with service in Vietnam. Upon discharge, I worked for Electronic Data Systems, that's Ross Perot's company, as a systems engineer. Came out here, worked for Colorado National Bank as a remote data processing manager. And then, I don't know if you guys, Colorado National Bank, I think, is a hotel or something like that now. It's the one with the big columns in front of it. They say its nickname was the bank that looks like a mausoleum. Well, that was true. Once you got inside, everybody was half dead. So it was I said, I don't like that. Then I became a stockbroker with Shearson Hamill, a big New York stock exchange firm. And they closed the office during the stock market crash in the mid-'70s. And I said, I don't like this. I mean, working my butt off, really trying to do things right, and companies close on me. And I said, I think I can just do better on my own. So what's the first thing I did? Pretty simple. I went up to the mountains and cut down dead aspen woods. brought them back to my garage and made aspen wood gifts out of it. That's pretty high-tech. Well, I like woodworking, and I had some tools, and so that got me I had seen these products at some of the gift stores and everything up in the mountains, aspen wood products, and I thought, well, I can make better products than what's being sold. And so my in-house invention on that was most of the products that were out there were using a polyurethane coating. And aspen's a beautiful wood. I mean, it really has great grain and it really shows up. But it really, the polyurethane wasn't just killing it. So I started experimenting with a two-part epoxy. It's kind of very hard. A lot of times you'll see it on bar tops and everything like that. It's just that clear epoxy. Oh man, did it bring out the grain. It just made that aspen shine. And so that was my invention. Use epoxy instead of polyurethane. It's a little bit harder. It stinks like hell. You got to wear this mask on when you're painting it on because of the fumes. But that was differentiating. Kind of gave me something to grab onto. So I was making the aspen wood gifts and painting them. And we had candles and clocks and wreaths and candle holders and bolo tie bolos and belt buckles, all done out of aspen. So I'd get a suitcase and I'd go up the mountains, go into these little gift stores, and say, I would like to talk to the owner, and well, she's not out. Well, can you come back in an hour? Okay, So you just get the runaround. I mean, you're driving up and down 70. You never get to see the right person. They're out drinking coffee, and I said, God, how do people ever make any money? How do you even talk to the right people? So I went up and I said, I'm going to start talking to whoever I meet in these stores. I'm just going to ask them, how do salespeople get in and sell products to your company? And I found out the most amazing things. So that was my other invention, was just ask people. Ask people, how does this work? And they told me, they said, well, it's manufacturer's reps. Maybe you guys have heard of manufacturer's reps. I had never heard of them. They said, well, manufacturer's reps take small companies and they go out and they're their sales force. And they go out and call on their marketplace and get customers for them. Some of them do. Well, that's the problem you have with reps. But I went up to the merchandise mart here on 58, walked around, found a company I thought that my product would fit with, went in, told them about it, had my sample case. They looked at it and said, fantastic, would love to rep your product. We don't have anything like it, nothing's competing. So it was like, now I can just go back and make things and you guys will go out and sell them? Yeah, okay, I like that. But, that's kind of naive, how naive we are. We haven't been exposed to these things. And asking people for help was kind of my secret sauce on that deal. So I did that for a year or so. It was pretty, wears you out, woodworking and breathing all the dust and almost cutting your fingers off and sanding your fingers off and all these things that happen when you're woodworking. And so I sold the company. And while I had been up in the mountains, driving all over, looking for aspen wood trees to cut down, I didn't ask anybody. I just went out and cut them down. Who cares about a dead tree? So I had, I had my summer trees and my winter trees. So my winter trees were closer to the road, so I could go up there and whack those off and put them in my trailer. And the summer trees I could haul to my trailer. So I don't know. I guess someone would get mad at me if they ever caught me doing it, but nobody ever said anything. So my cost of goods sold was not very high. I could, just the cost of my gas and time. But while I was up there, I started doing a lot of photography, and I took some classes at Colorado Free University in it, and just loved it. And just about everybody that came back from Vietnam bought a 35 millimeter camera, and I had my 35 millimeter SLR camera, and shooting. And I thought, boy, well, I've taken some beautiful shots. I'll start a company, and I'll sell my photographic art here, and put it on some cards and do that. And so that was my idea. I'll sell. It was called Highland Arts, and I'll just start selling my scenic cards. So, kind of in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, I don't know if my art is really that good. I don't know if anybody will pay for it. So I decided, well, I'll go out and I will talk to Colorado photographers, really good guys, know what they're doing. And I'll get 5, 10 slides from them. And I'll bring them back and I'll do a kind of a focus group and I'll slip some of my cards in there, or my pictures in there to see if they're really cool like I think they are. And I'll invite all of our neighbors up, so we'll get like 20 or 30 people in a room, and we'll have them rate these. And we'll have coffee and brownies, and there'd be old people, young people, men, women, kids. What I thought was a pretty good demographic from, to do this focus group on. And so then we would compile the results and find the top 5 or 10, and that's what we were going to order. Well, none of my pictures made it. None of them made the cut. Brilliant what I did. Let my ego shrivel up and went to people that really knew what the hell they were doing, and so that my business would be successful. So we would take these cards and we would have them gang printed by a company in Kansas City, where they would do your work with others on a big plate, and because it was all 5-color process and very expensive. And we had to order 5,000 at a time, but that's what the plan was. So we also made another change, another in-house invention, and that was we made a bigger card. Back in the 70s, most cards were called postcards, and they were all over in the filling stations and just everywhere. And it was a 3x5 card, and that's what we had was postcards. And so I increased the size to 5x7, and I called them art cards. And it was just a big postcard, but it was bigger, so you got more expression out of it. And so that's what we started with these 5x7 cards. Well, I started with these wire racks. I had about 50 of these little wire racks, and this same thing that you see today. They're really ugly, crappy-looking wire racks. Is what they used to display cards. So I designed a wooden rack, and I used the little brass head nails, so that it kind of gives it that antique look, where you see the brass nail head and the wood, and I had them stained and everything. Had a woodworker do it for us. So we started putting them in these. We had the same company, the reps that were doing my past product, were doing these cards. And so we got instant placement all over the Rocky Mountains. And people were attracted to that stand, just that little stand. I mean, it said, wow, that's really crafty, that's really neat looking. So they'd go over and look at our cards before they'd look at somebody else's cards on one of these dorky little wire racks. So the size of the cards, attractive displays, I guess, was kind of my secret invention there, in understanding how important it is to display the products when they're competing with everything else. And then, something I didn't quite realize, because the margins when I was doing the Aspenberg gifts was not too great, but the margins with this, your gross profit margins, were exceptional. My cards cost me 3 cents. I was selling them to the stores at 12 cents. And they were keystoning it and selling them at 25 cents. So, wow, that is, you probably all watch Shark Tank, and one of the questions they always ask you, what are your margins, Well, I had killer margins there. And so what I learned from that was, you need those. There's so many things. You're paying the reps 15%. You've got travel, you've got this, you've got to hire people, you've got to, so make those, get those margins up there. That could save you. Can be the success or not successful for your business. Then the other kind of secret thing that sauce I had these cards. And so I said, well, they're in the racks. So we said, well, let's mat some of them, put them in a mat. So we had them matted and kind of a plastic kind of things so that when people, so we had these boxes and they'd just be lined up in the box and they'd just flip through them. And so a matted print. So you get the card, you get the matted print. What's the next step? Frames. So then we had these little shadow box frames for them. So we had put them into 3 categories now. So we really expanded the selection that you could get. And then we found another market. It was terrific. Bookstores. And particularly college bookstores. Because they're a great, inexpensive way to kind of put some art from Colorado up, some scenic art from Colorado. Very inexpensive to kind of make your dorm room a little bit more interesting. So those are some of the in-house inventions for that little company. And was telling fill it with water, freeze it, and cut it apart, and you would have an ice sculpture. And the 2 molds he had was a mermaid and a dolphin. And he was unsuccessful, and he was upset that this whole thing wasn't working, and it was an incredible product, and he couldn't realize how people just weren't screaming and pounding on his door, and he was going to go to Las Vegas and play poker. So I bought these two ice molds from him. And his marketing method was to sell to restaurants. And yeah, restaurants might use this, but you know, I went in and delved into this and found out what the distribution rules were, or how the distribution of these restaurant products worked. And he should have been selling to restaurant equipment dealers. Restaurants buy from restaurant equipment houses. So don't go against the flow. I mean, if that's what they're used to do, don't fight it. So design your product and price your product so it can be sold by restaurant equipment dealers. So that was know your market, know the distribution channels. That was my invention. And then do that. And so I've soon found out that there was buying groups of restaurant equipment dealers that would go together, and maybe 100 of them would start a buying group, and they were looking for vendors that would be loyal to them and give them like a 10% discount. And they would all buy from these particular vendors. And within that buying group, you wouldn't have competition. So they would only have one person selling pots and pans and one guy selling silverware. So I got into a buying group, and just incredible. Boy, I got my cash flow, got traction, was able to start making a couple other new molds, so I had more variety on what was sold. So I was kind of, I had one employee, and we would just, test it. We had to test each one of these in water, put them down in water, make sure that they didn't have any leaks. Package them up, send them out. The money was coming in. We were just, it was so cool. And then the company that was making my plastic molds, the owner told me, he says, we're not going to be able to make those anymore. We're selling that machine. We just don't have enough business on that machine to make it worthwhile. I think it was like I'd been sucker punched. Everything was going so great, and now I was out of business because there was no other manufacturer in Denver. And it would be very expensive, since these are big hollow objects, to have them made at any distance from Denver. And I was just floored. I just didn't know what to do. So I said, well, I've got to get a warehouse. and I've got to build a machine. I got to go into production myself. I don't want to do that. I just want to sit here and sell stuff and make a lot of money. So that's what we did. I found a warehouse and found a guy in Berthoud that was a very good at welding and building things, and we together, I mean, these machines were out there, we just had to put all the components together. Well, we didn't have the money for new components, so we bought mostly secondhand, used components, engines, motors, all kinds of stuff, shafts, and built our own rotational molding machine. And that's when everything changed in my life. Now you had the means to produce whatever you wanted. You were in control. You could invent. You could make products for yourself to sell. I could make products for you. So we did custom molding, and we had our own products. And it was controlling their means of production opened hundreds of doors. Hundreds of doors, okay. So we got to keep everything in order here. Okay, one of the first products I developed was a small ice mold, and it was made out of a flexible PVC, and it came in a box, and would fold the ice mold over the lip of the box, and pour water into it. It's like taking a glove and sticking it in the box and filling up, and you'd have a frozen hand, which if that's what you wanted for your ice sculpture. But so that was the invention, and we got it patented. And it was maybe a month or two after we were getting into the marketplace, somebody called and said, "Yeah, I saw your invention on late night TV." I said, "Really? I think we're selling that." So I went on to late night infomercial, this company that was doing it, and I ordered my product, not my product, but their knockoff of my product, and got it, took it down to my patent attorney, and looked at it, and geez, man, they didn't take any time to even pretend that they're changing it. They just, it's right there. And I said, well, I mean, let's get these guys, let's get rid of them, and let's, take them to court. And for the life of me, I tried to remember this guy's name, and I loved him. He was just such a great attorney. And he said, well, we can do that. But he said, to begin with, it's going to cost you about $50,000. This was in the 70s. It's probably a lot more today. $50,000. He said, it might take 3 years or more, and we don't know what the jury's going to do. And so he said, I don't think you ought to do that. And I said, well, really? Come on. He says, no, it's just silly. I'm not going to take $50,000 from it. He says, here's the advice I can give you. 1, develop more products. 2, get distribution. He said, nothing beats distribution for value. When you can have this wonderful patent hanging on your wall, do you want to buy my company? I have this patent. Or would you buy this company over here, that his product's in 10,000 stores? And that's what he told me. He said, get distribution. So that was my mantra for everything else that I did. Develop new products, get distribution. Get distribution. I was making, just as I'll show you the expression that we've all used in our lives here, but I was making the Playboy bunny head for Playboy Industries, and is an ice mold, a big ice mold that they were using in their clubs and restaurants. And so and it was doing fine. Playboy was very popular back then. I think most of their stuff is closed now, but it was quite popular in the 70s. And they called me back and they said, we'd like you to make a little model of our trademark bunny head, which when we made the mold for them, they gave us a swizzle stick and said, proportion this out because this is exactly what it is supposed to be. So we did when we made the big bunny, but now we were back down to a little, 1.5-inch tall butter mold that they wanted in 3D. And I thought, well, that's really cute. That would really be cool. So I said, well, I'll go back and try and figure this out. I spent about 6 months, or 6 weeks on it. I was trying everything I could think of on how to do this. The main problem was the ears. Once you kept the same dimensions and shrunk it down, the ears where they joined the head were so small, because the bunny head is kind of shaped, or like a leaf is kind of what the shape is, and so the ears would break off. So I did it in kind of 2 dimension, or what I call two and a half dimension, so that you push it into a mold, it molds, and then you pop it out, and on the plate it has dimension, but it's not standing up like 3 dimension. So I called them and said, I got some ideas for you. So I went back to Chicago, sat down. The 2 guys that were in charge of the project came in and said, boy, I'm really excited about this and everything. And so I got my little mold out, and I'd actually done it out of plaster or something so I could transport it and stuff like that. And I popped it out and showed them this bunny laying on a little plate. And they said, what? I said, I had all these problems, with the ears, but this is good. This is cool, and people are familiar with a pad of butter. I mean, it's supposed to be kind of flat, and so I think there'll be a great acceptance. It's really cute. It's exact copy of your trademark. And they just both looked at me and says, "This isn't what we wanted." I said, "Well, this is not what we wanted." And they got up and left. So I thought, man, it's a waste of time. Got back to Denver, I threw the bunny mold on the desk, and just so frustrated I'd wasted all this time. About 2 weeks later, I'm doing something at the desk, and I look over, and there's that damn mold. I said, bunny head. It doesn't have to be bunny heads. It could be flowers. It could be hearts. It could be a Christmas tree. I could make butter molds in the shape of anything. And that's what I did. So we became the butter mold company of the world, and we sold millions of these butter mold packages. Thank you, Playboy. But that's a good example of inventing, turning lemons into lemonade. We've all used that kind of expression or heard it in our lives, but it actually happened. Another thing that helped the business grow that I didn't know anything about was trade shows. So most of our business, our sales were business to business. Woo! So I started going to the restaurant show. At that time, it was like one of the biggest. It was in Chicago every May, and it was one of the biggest shows in the United States. Everybody in the industry comes by, and you just keep getting more sales and selling it. It's just incredible way to sell your product. Get people coming in to see your product. We continued to grow this concept of butter molds. So we had butter molds, and then we had Jello molds, and then we had chocolate molds, and we had our little ice molds. So we became the molded food company. We owned that category, so to speak. And we were going to all the gourmet shows, and we were going to the restaurant shows. And so we had these, I just hadn't ever been to a trade show in my life. And then I found that these are probably the least expensive, most high quality audience that you could ever present to. And when you go to these trade shows, you put up a little sign in your booth that says, reps wanted. So manufacturers reps stop by and say, oh yeah, we're looking for some new lines, can we talk? And so you get distribution just like that from your reps. I continue to develop all kinds of new products, dozens of products, but I only filed 2 patents. I just kind of gotten burned out on it. I said, I was going back to my mantra, get the distribution, get the help you need, get to the trade shows, get the reps, get it on the shelf. And you start making a lot of money. and you get wide distribution, and you have value to your company. It's so hard to build value into your company. One of the neat things that I did, I keep calling these in-house inventions, I was looking to set up a rep organization and selling a lot of these molds, and I met this guy at the Gourmet Show in San Francisco, and everybody talked about Frank Brady. He was the greatest rep in the world, and everybody loved him, and he's creative, and he got along with everybody. So I went up and I asked him, I said, would you like to rep my product? And I showed him. It was kind of, he's got Krups, and he's got American Standard, he's got all the killer lines, and I'm just showing him my little food molds, which, he didn't need them. But I said, he said, these are cool. I really like these, but it's just too small of a line for me. And I said, well, why don't you help me set up a rep organization, and I'll give you an override. I'll give you 2%. So the commissions to the reps were 15%. So he gets just 2%, just for any sale that's made by any rep that he gets to take our product line. In 2 or 3 weeks, I had the most incredible group of reps that you could ever find. Now, Brady was top, and everybody loved him, a great guy. Who do you think he ran around with? Schmucks? No, great reps who had great lines, who were killer. So he helped me set this whole thing up, and so I had instant representation in almost every state in the union, from, like you were saying, reps, good reps, hard to find, a lot of, firing them and finding others, but this group was just outstanding. So I call that I guess I call that my invention, finding the super rep. I found another idea. There was an association, International Association of Rotational Molders, a plastic process that I was doing. And I joined this. It was good. I believe you should join associations. And but I did more than join it. I wanted to get involved with it. So I would volunteer to take over certain committees and do things, and gradually work my way up to the board of directors. You're the board of directors of an association with international ties. You're meeting people from all over the world. And you're not competing with somebody in England. So they can come to your factory, and you'll teach them all your secret sauces, and you can go over to England and learn their secrets. And so that was, was it an invention? No, but to me it was an invention. I found the secret way to talk to the key people in the industry all over the world and gain their respect and trade ideas and things, because you weren't competing. So that was an interesting little in-house invention. About that time, it was just so much fun. We were creating so many things. So many people were coming to us to get us to produce products for them that I just started making mistakes, and made a couple pretty costly mistakes just because I wasn't doing the research that was necessary